Hello, I'm Lu Shokong, the literary editor for Sally's Book Talk. This week's literary theme is about chatting with you about American literature. Compared to European or Chinese literature histories that span thousands of years, American literature isn't particularly long, but it's diverse in genres and has created many classic characters. This week, I'll bring you 6 American novels and their iconic characters from these stories. When talking about American literature, many folks immediately think of Gone with the Wind and then recall the name Scarlett. Recalling the charming face of Hollywood star Vivian Leigh, Scarlett embodies a rebellious spirit. She refuses to be a man's appendage, and words like give up or failure seem absent from her dictionary. She missed her first love, but her idea was to win him back. She lost her home, yet she could carry on. She could take the pregnant Melanie across the Civil War blockade lines. Her first marriage was for profit, and even after becoming a widow, she didn't tone down her flamboyant style. Where will such a Scarlet story drift to? Stay tuned. On Tuesday, Sally's Book Talk covers Gone with the Wind. Scarlett is a typical struggler driven by self-interest. To achieve her goals, she can make a lot of compromises. In contrast to Scarlett, there's another iconic character in American literary history. Martin Eden, he's a striver who absolutely refuses to compromise. This character was born from author Jack London's pen. Martin Eden can be seen as Jack London's autobiography, telling the story of a sailor from the bottom of society who becomes a high-class writer. But after achieving his dreams and gaining love, Martin ultimately chooses suicide. Why is that? Jack London's writing is usually romantic and wild, but this novel shifts style, showing a story of the American dream, disillusioned, full of social criticism. After discussing strivers, let's look at the young female characters in Little Women. This is a typical coming-of-age novel, one that brought warmth and comfort to people suffering in war at the time. And it's also one of America's earliest feminist texts, telling the story of 4 sisters growing up during the American Civil War. The author didn't dwell much on the war, but instead meticulously depicted the daily lives, interpersonal relationships, and emotional worlds of the 4 sisters, creating a harmonious and warm family led by these little women. Though the 4 sisters have different personalities, each has her own interests. They're all kind, brave, and eager to grow. In contrast to the little women's eagerness to grow, there's a 17-year-old boy who refuses to grow up. Holden. He is the protagonist of the novel The Catcher in the Rye. He was expelled from several middle schools because of poor grades and fighting. This troubled teenager is a typical figure in America's Beat Generation literature. He doesn't want to grow up, and he hopes no child in the world grows up either, because he thinks the adult world is murky and corrupt, like a cliff beside the rye field. Once children grow up and fall off, their innocence and purity can never be regained. So he doesn't want to grow up. He just wants to be a catcher in the rye, guarding the children to prevent them from falling off the cliff. A classic adolescent figure. Another example in American literature is the young girl Lolita, the protagonist of Nabokov's novel of the same name. She is 14, both precocious and willful. She is part of a generation raised on fast food and jazz, worshiping material things and money to a foolishly blind extent. Many people are familiar with Lolita, but we sometimes wonder if Nabokov has a strong critique of her stepfather Humbert. Is this novel actually making a moral condemnation? This Saturday, stay tuned for Sally's book talk on Lolita. The last book prepared for you this week is Uncle Tom's Cabin. Tom is the most capable slave on the plantation, yet he cannot escape the fate of being separated from his wife and children. However, The touching aspect of Tom's character is that no matter how cruel the things he endures, he always holds love and forgiveness for people in his heart. At his deathbed, his only wish is for those who have done evil to sincerely repent. This novel uses the story of a black slave to show the evils of slavery to all American citizens. Therefore, the author, Mrs. Stowe, is called the little woman who started a war. Many people always ask, why read literature? Why read novels? Actually, the process of reading literary works is the process of reading people. Good novels always create classic characters. Good literature always points to human existential dilemmas, and reading them is an experience of humanity and reflection on life. Okay, that's about it for this week's editor's recommendations. If you have any questions, feel free to click the link below the audio and give us feedback in the community.